Common Knowledge is brought to you by PureMTGO.com and InkedGaming.com. Use coupon code CCMTG10 at checkout for a 10% discount on all Inked Gaming supplies and accessories. You can support the show directly through Patreon at patreon.com/common knowledge.
This is the Common Knowledge Podcast. It's not about the cost, it's about the knowledge. Here are your hosts, Brandon Clark and Lawbert.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome to episode 52 of the Common Knowledge Podcast. I am your host, Brandon, and joined with me as always is my beautiful assistant, Sean the Lawbert.
I am most known for my beauty. That's
far and wide. Noble men come from a far off land to seek the favor of the fair Lawbert.
I have many a suitor.
Many.
What's up, man?
Oh, not a lot. Just enjoying my holiday break until the next semester starts next Monday. So I've got one more week.
What you gonna do with your last week of freedom?
Probably just keep playing Arena because I'm sick of waiting 5 to 10 minutes per match to play on Magic Online.
Yeah. I've been tempted by the standard popper. I haven't given in or downloaded anything yet, but
I haven't given in. You say this like Arena's a bad thing. It'll make your life better. Just do it.
It won't. Because I need more things to divide my time up.
Just stop playing Magic Online.
Then what are we going to podcast about? Standard popper?
No, you can still play Popper. Just play Paper Popper with me on Tuesday nights.
Where the metagame is updated like 20 times more slowly, and people just play the same decks every week. Nah.
Yeah, it's been hard because I told everyone that I was going to make an effort to play more Popper over this break on MTGO, and it's just like between every single match, it's like a 3 to 5 minute wait. And then today I fired up Magic Online to finish off this league, and I sat in the queue for like 9 minutes, and I was just like, nah. And then I went and played some standard on Arena.
That's the problem with this generation. It's just all about that instant gratification.
I'm not waiting 9 minutes between each round. If I wanted that, I would just go play at LGS's more.
Okay. Do you wanna get into the podcast?
Yeah, let's get into it. Into this podcast. Let's start with our "What Are We Playing" topic. We kind of talked about that a little bit, sort of, just now. We all know that I'm playing Arena, but when I'm not waiting 10 minutes in a queue, I am trying to play Blue Black Delver. I did play a lot of other stuff too. I've played a lot of Elves because I own that deck in paper and it's fun. And I played some Scred Delver as well. I've been playing with Fire Ice in the deck, in the main deck.
Yeah.
I've liked it a lot, actually. I think it's very good. Like 2 copies of Fire Ice have been pretty good for me. And then the one I've been playing the most because I want to know because, you know, all this stuff that's happening right now around the foil and Blue Black Delver lists. And I don't know. I think this is real, but at the same time, like, I'm still kind of skeptical that maybe it's just hype because I don't know. I just don't usually feel good casting foil.
Yeah.
But I think the thing though that I've started to kind of understand is Gurmag Angler just sort of has built-in protection.
Yeah.
In it being a 5/5, and so there are very few answers to it. And so like you really just save your foils for those matchups that have those select answers. And like if you can just counter their answer to your Gurmag Angler, you don't really care that you're down 3 cards to them because then you're going to kill them with the 5/5 before their cards matter.
Yeah.
And so I think that's sort of where the big power from foil Gurmag Angler comes from.
Yeah, I that's exactly what I've been finding when not playing that deck is that foil to power out a Gurmag is really bad. It doesn't feel good. And then foil to protect a Gurmag is phenomenal.
Yes. And so I'm almost thinking about cutting it down to 2 foils and trying to fit Thought Scours into the deck to help power out Gurmag. Like, I don't know if maybe Thought Scour would just be better than Gitaxian Probes.
I don't know. I've seen every mismatched, like, some of this, some of that version when I've been playing.
Yeah, I think the most commonplace thing is like 0 Thought Scours and 3 copies of Gitaxian Probe, 3 copies of Foil. That seems to be like what most people are leaning to, but there's still just a hodgepodge of stuff. Like, I've seen that 2 mana enchantment, 1 in a blue. If the creature's untapped, tap it at the beginning of its controller's upkeep. Do you know the enchantment I'm talking about?
Oh, like Curse of Chains or something?
No, it wasn't Curse of Chains. It had a different name. Maybe it is Curse of Chains. No, it's just 1 in a blue. A single 1 in a blue. It's not hybrid blue-white.
But it does the exact same thing?
Yes.
Oh, then I don't care. It's Curse of Chains.
Okay, is that what Curse of Chains does? I thought Curse of Chains just tapped something forever.
At the beginning of each upkeep, tap enchanted creature, and it's hybrid white-blue.
Now I want to find this. Now I want to find this card. Maybe it was just Curse of Chains, and I'm just a psychopath.
Yeah, you might be a psychopath.
Yeah, I'm just a psychopath. It was just Curse of Chains. I don't know why I thought it was something different. It's just Curse of Chains. Yeah, a lot of decks have been playing a single copy of Curse of Chains and cutting down lower on the Ghastly Demises and stuff, and a lot of them are down to 2 counter spells as well.
Oh, that's so silly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of like going down on counterspell in this deck.
Yeah.
When, like, your mana base consists of Island Swamp. Like your board is generally like 1 island, 1 swamp, and sometimes you get to 2 so that you can cast Gush, but generally you're holding your 3rd island in hand for your foil, and then if you draw your Gush, you just will play that island out and Gush, or set up your Gush turn, play the island out, and then the next turn you'll Gush, kind of a thing. So, like, and I mean, sometimes you do just hit 4 mana, but I do like going lower on the counterspell, because that is the hardest card in the deck to cast. It's the one that I find the most frequently. I'm just like, I don't know how I'm going to cast this counterspell, and I like get rid of it with a brainstorm or something, and I just am like, I don't really care about what they resolve, because I'm going to like daze or foil it, and I really only care about it if it's like killing my threats. And then I've got tons of good removal. Like, a lot of decks, like this deck here that I'm looking at from the challenge yesterday, is playing like 3 copies of Snuff Out, 3 copies of Echoing Decay, then the 1 copy of Curse of Chains, and a Dispel. I don't know if I like Dispel, but yeah, there's just a hodgepodge of cards in these deck lists right now. I don't think anyone's really sure what the right configuration is.
Yeah, there's not a best list. I don't think so yet. If there is a best list, which, you know, of course there is, I guess, but it hasn't been widely accepted.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that 3 copies of foil is the correct number of foils either. Like, I feel like foil serves one function in the deck, and that's to protect Gurmag Angler from a few very narrow set of cards. And so I just don't know that I want 3. Like, it's not something I want to see every game.
Yeah, kind of.
Because there are a lot of matchups that I play that I'm just like, foil's so bad. There's nothing in this deck I care about foiling. Like, they can't really answer Gurmag Angler efficiently anyway. But then I like draw 2 of them in that game, and it's just so bad.
But it's, I don't know. It's, you want at least 1. I think that's why they're at 3. And
see, I don't agree with that. I don't think I want at least 1 in.
Really?
At least 40-45% of the matchups I play.
aren't you kind of beaten up on those decks anyway if they can't deal with a Gurmag Angler?
That's my point. So I don't want to draw multiple copies of foil and then not have anything to do on my turns to get to Gurmag Angler because my hand is just multiple copies of foil. And I mean, I guess like that's the time when foil serves as the Black Lotus for your Gurmag Angler. But it's, I don't know, it's still not super great. And if you just glut out on them, like you draw 2 copies.
Discard your second one to the first one. Easy. Got it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're probably going to talk about Blueback Angler or Delver later.
A lot.
I'm going to finish our what were we playing and actually talk about what I played. I played Burn and some Corrupt Control. I thought I was innovating, and I've been having some. I've been not able to play that deck because I just lose to Morosatron every time, and it's simply because Capsize exists. And at some point, they just Capsize lock me out of being able to play more lands. And the innovation I came up with was in like Shadows over Innistrad, there was a 3-mana instant speed spell that said like sacrifice a land, draw 2 cards in black. And I was just like, I'll just instant speed sacrifice my swamp, and that's how I'm gonna beat them. I just have to fizzle their spell and sacrifice a swamp. And so I was testing that out and proceeded to only play against foil decks. Like, just people testing foil out in every weird thing. Other than that, Burn is Burn. Yeah.
I think there are a few places where foil is very good and everywhere else is just actively bad. And we will talk about those places where it's good, but I don't know if Sean shares my opinion on that.
I'm coming around to like, well, it is feeling really good against me when people are playing it against me. Like just based on feelings, like the whole logic of it doesn't really, I don't know all of the aspects of why. It just feels good in my opponent's hand. Like I don't feel good, I feel bad, I feel like I'm gonna lose type of deal. Do you get what I'm saying? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, well, like what kind of decks are you playing against? Like Delver decks?
Delver, yeah. They're all most of them are Delver decks. I played against like a Nimble Mongoose type of deal. Actually, I ended up playing against that guy like 3 times. Just because I don't think anyone else was queuing, or he was fine just testing his Burn matchup over and over.
I think that's a place where foil is good, though.
Mostly Daze was what was eating my lunch.
Nimble Mongoose. Okay.
Anyway, card of the week?
Yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about our card of the week. And I think this is probably our most important card of the week ever for right now because of how relevant I think this spell is in Pauper at the moment.
I can't believe we haven't done this one yet.
Well, I'm glad we didn't. I'm glad we saved it for now.
Oh yeah, this is really well timed.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to tell us what our card is?
Card of the week.
So our card of the week this week is Journey to Nowhere. It was submitted by Luke Green, who's super active on our Facebook and Twitter. Thank you. We appreciate that. You are a champion of the community, I believe. If you don't know what Journey to Nowhere is, it's a colorless and a white for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile target creature. When Journey to Nowhere leaves the battlefield, return that creature into play under its owner's control. Why is this our card of the week? Other than it was a suggestion.
Well, it was a suggestion, but we did choose it as our card of the week because this is the most efficient, if not one of the most efficient answers to Gurmag Angler in the format. This is just a 2-mana, just unconditional removal spell. Mm-hmm. That all that has to do is be a creature without hexproof, and Journey to Nowhere can exile it. It's just kind of a big deal right now with how dominant the card Gurmag Angler is and how difficult that card is to answer for a lot of decks.
Yeah, this is one of the most prime foil targets, because right now our format feels like it's about, can you kill Gurmag Angler? What happens when they foil you? Type of deal. So yeah. I think this pops up as a 4 of in almost every every whitelist I know of.
Yeah. And when I'm playing Blue-Black Delver and my opponent plays a white mana source of any kind, my mind immediately goes to, okay, I need to foil their Journey to Nowhere. Like, that's the only card I'm probably thinking about is Journey to Nowhere. I need to foil their Journey to Nowhere. Or I don't know, maybe if they double Galvanic Blast, I need to foil the second Galvanic Blast.
And blow them out.
But mostly it's Journey to Nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, this card is not... It feels like it's not only just the best white removal spell, it's our only white removal spell. Like, I feel like the list is one card deep. Like, yeah, Sunlance sucks, though, because you go against Boros Monarch, and there's not a single target you have. Like, the same goes for...
Yeah, no, Sunlance is not good.
Sunlance just isn't good. I've played around with that card, and it feels awful. Like, really actively not good. It's sorcery speed. Journey to Nowhere is also sorcery speed, but it deals with Gurmag Angler.
They should just make Swords to Plowshares common. That'd be fine.
No.
That card's not that good.
No.
Hey.
Maybe like a 2-mana Path to Exile. I could maybe come around to, but that would still be amazing. Anyway, card's good with Core Skyfisher.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that synergy of if you flicker your guy, save your guy somehow, you can do it again, or if you find a better target, you can try again on that.
That's the biggest one I'm thinking of, is that you don't need to be afraid of using your Journey to Nowhere on early creatures to preserve your life total, because you can always just bounce back your Journey to Nowhere in the later game to pick up those bigger threats when their other smaller things, aren't really a problem anymore because you now have a 2/3.
Yeah, that being said, it's not that common for that to happen. Most people just hold on to it. They would rather use their Core Skyfisher for something else that's going to draw them cards or something, and then just play their Journey later when there's that high value threat. Yeah, that's pretty much Journey to Nowhere, is right? Like, I don't have much more to say besides it's super important to the meta right now because of the top deck.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think this is really a card that we need to be like trying to educate our listeners on. Like, everyone should know how good this card is just as it is, but I think it's important for us to try to point out how good it is right now, like how well positioned it is currently. Being able to use it against Gurmag Anglers, is kind of the best thing you can do with it at this point right now. So, because other than that, there's just not a lot of answers to it.
All right, get into main topic.
Yep, main topic time.
Main topic.
So this month we did December power rankings, and things are kind of crazy. So,
just off the wall.
Jeez, the wall.
Man. What's our number one deck? We've already spoiled it.
Yeah, we've already talked a ton about it. It's Blue-Black Delver.
Okay, guys. It's nuts how much of a number one deck this is. So I hope you're seated, because this deck had 102 points this month. Were there 5 weeks this month?
Yes.
Okay, we didn't adjust for that. It's usually 4. Do we want to hold real quick and adjust that?
What do you mean?
So this is going to have more points because there were more there were more challenges.
Yeah.
Last time we did this, we times everything by 4/5 to adjust for that, so that the power rankings weren't thrown off. They all had like a steady number.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, we're back after we adjusted everything. So after timesing everything by 0.8, Blue-Black Delver still had 82 points. Little perspective here. The most that we've ever recorded Scred Delver being at, which was our previous high, was in February of last year, and it had 72 points. So this is 10 points above that, which, oh man, that's a lot of Blue-Black Delver.
Yeah, that is a ton. Part of me does chalk this up to a lot of hype, where just a lot of people are playing around this card. Is there something going on with my image?
You're kind of orange.
Why am I orange?
I don't know.
I didn't think that would work. I literally just ran my thumb across my camera.
Oh, it just like readjusted itself.
Oh, it must have been. Oh, I guess because I stretched earlier and I leaned back in my chair, and so maybe it like the lighting. I don't know. That was weird. Anyway, what are we talking about?
Blue Black Delver hype.
Oh, that deck's bad. Let's move on.
Yeah,
I'm just joking, everybody. I don't know. So I do kind of think a lot of this is hype. Like I don't think that number will be that high next month.
It could be though.
It could be. It could be. It very well could be. But
man, every time I played against it without having both days and foil, like any tiny bit that they get ahead is just like it is hell to catch back up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I think though that there are a lot of decks that are strong enough to kind of keep it down. Like not like knock it out of the meta, because I think this deck's really good, but I think there are enough decks that can kind of like combat it that they'll be able to keep up.
Like I mean, that's hard. That's hard to see when the next highest deck has half of its points.
Right. And I do think that's just because of hype. Like people are just there's just an influx of players playing with it because it's the new toy. And I think that's going to settle back down.
I mean, hype can go two ways, especially when people are trying to be competitive in a format. People can get, it can be super hype and then that dies down, or it can be super hype and then people pile on because they think that's the only thing that they can do to win. Because just these numbers are crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if the numbers are going to go down. I really don't. I actually don't think that they're going to go down unless something happens that I can't foresee. I guess there could be like the Blue Black Delver killer deck, but we don't have that many tools to deal with it. I mean, I do want to address for a second here. People are still having the discussion like daily in the Reddit of, does Gush need to be banned? Does Foil need to be banned?
I think that our stance is that we just don't care, because whether or not that card is legal in the format doesn't affect what we're trying to convey to our listeners, right? Like,
right.
Speculating on what card needs to be banned isn't going to
true.
help anyone. And so I think that our perspective is we just want to focus on what's happening and how do we adjust as players. So like, you think that the adjustment might just be pile on and play more Delver to be competitive. And I kind of think that there are some other options that players can go to combat the deck. Like I think that the Boros decks are very good against this blue-black deck. I think that having those spells that they can use out of the graveyard makes foil a lot worse. So like having access to Battle Screech and Prismatic Strands and cards like that are really good. The same goes for like Rally the Peasants. I was going to say Rally the Ancestors, but that's the broken one that broke standard. But so there, I think, and like the go wide aspect too of these Boros decks, I think the Gurmag Angler decks struggle with, because they just put a 1/1 in front of your Gurmag Angler, and then they have a big rally turn.
I'm not entirely on board.
You just think it's too good?
I really am feeling like my feelings right now are that it doesn't seem like a surmountable problem. Like just the 5/5, them getting out ahead. Like, okay, I'm gonna try to battle
multiple
Screech
free counter spells.
Yeah,
an evasive threat in the form of Gurmag Angler. Like it being a 5/5 is evasion in this format. It just gets around so many removal spells.
Yeah,
that like our go-to removal spells, this card gets around them. And like Scred's what, probably the second best answer to this card. Well, I guess Ghastly Demise maybe.
Like, I mean, Ghastly Demise is like a moot point because it's in the same deck.
Right.
Like the only other deck that plays it.
Those cards still though take setup.
Yeah.
Scred, my opponent has to have 5 lands in play to be able to Scred my creature, and I can play this card on turn 3.
Yeah.
So maybe you're right. Like I'm definitely not trying to downplay how powerful this deck is, because I've been playing it and I know how powerful it is. But I do feel like we have tools to fight it. I don't think that it's going to be like, oh, next week Blue Black Delver's in second place or something. Like, I don't think any of these Boros decks are going to jump to first place suddenly. Like, but I wouldn't be surprised if like next month we were at like 65 points.
Which is still unhealthy. Like, that's so much of our meta.
It is a lot, and a banning should potentially happen. But I mean, until then, I think the best thing that we can try to think about is what we need to do to combat the deck.
Right? Yeah, that's. I agree that that's what stance we should take on this podcast. It's just I do want to say that I'm not entirely against a banning, but I know that it pisses you off, but why? I'm usually like, yeah, maybe something should be banned. I'm usually more ban happy than you like, because you hate bannings, it feels like.
I don't hate bannings. I prefer to try and figure out a way to avoid them, because bannings lead to a lot of bannings aren't healthy for a game generally, unless it's something like really bad. And if this gets to this is already at a point where I think a banning is noteworthy. Like, I think that Gush shouldn't be in this format at this point, or Delver of Secrets or something. Like, I don't know. Something blue needs to go. Whether it's Gush or foil or whatever, I don't really care. I'm not going to speculate.
Black and 5/5.
Yeah, or Gurmag Angler too. Like, I don't know. Like, I think that a banning at this point is probably the proper response, but I can't really affect that.
Yeah.
Like, me bitching and complaining, it doesn't do anything for me. Like, except just make me salty about my format. And it's not like Wizards is going to hear me and go, oh, that Brandon from the Common Knowledge podcast had a really good take on what card we should be banning. Let's get on that. Like, WotC's not listening to me. And in the random chance that someone from WotC listens to this podcast, me and my opinion are still not going to influence the banning. So, like, that's just how I see it. It's like, it doesn't benefit me to complain about bannings or even to speculate about bannings, because who cares if you're right about what should or shouldn't be banned? Like, in a lot of cases, it's usually obvious if something needs to be banned, and then I don't know. So I don't need to give my opinion on it to feel big.
That's the whole show, though, isn't it? Like, we give our opinions on like Popper.
I guess. I don't know. So I saw this tweet. It was like one of those monologue scenarios, and it was like, daughter, mommy, what's a podcast? Me. Well, you see, when two men love their opinion very, very much. ...
Yeah, that's totally true.
I don't know, but like, I give my opinions on stuff that I think is noteworthy or relevant, but like,
yeah,
I guess like the way I see it is just talking about bannings is fun to talk about, but it doesn't really benefit me or benefit anyone else to talk about. Like, who cares if we have a really good take on a banning, because that's not going to help our listeners win a challenge.
Yeah, I see your point.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, to answer your question, I generally dislike bannings, but when they're warranted, I don't have an issue with them. Or if they make a format better, I'm pro banning in that scenario. But generally, over bannings are bad. Like, if you look at Standard from like 2 years ago or whatever, when they had 6 cards on the ban list at one point in Standard.
Yeah.
And it was just a mess. And then it just makes feel bads. And obviously this format's not that bad, because they banned Gush, and I guess people are out $15 for a play set of Gushes or something.
Yeah.
So it's a little different.
Do
we have more to say about Blue Black Delver?
I'm sure as we go through the thing, we will.
Everything will come back to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's what it's all about. It's the hokey pokey this month.
So our next deck, second place with 40 points, was the Boros Rally, the Peasants deck.
Yeah. I want to look up one of these lists real quick.
Sure.
Do you have one? Just you can spit at me.
Yeah. Give me a second. I got it. Right. Her. Yeah, I've actually got 2 deck lists here. First place from yesterday's challenge, and second place from yesterday's challenge.
Oh snap!
And do you know what third? Want to guess what third place was?
Was it Blue Black Delver?
No, it was another Battle Screech deck. This was just good old Boros Monarch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, what did I say? The week prior, we had six Blue Black Delver decks in the top 8, and now we've got a mess of Battle Screech decks. Maybe I'm onto something.
When it's one deck and then decks that just beat that, I don't know. That's what it feels like to me.
Good. Yeah, it's still not good. Like, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so this deck list, first place, yesterday's challenge, 3 Palace Sentinels, 4 Seeker of the Way, 4 Squadron Hawks, 4 Thraben Inspectors. So this creature lineup was a little bit different because a lot of decks do have Sacred Cats in the main deck, and this one doesn't have them. 4 copies of Battle Screech, 4 copies of Faithless Looting, 3 copies of Firebolt, 3 Prismatic Strands, 2 Raise the Alarm, 1 Rally the Peasants, 3 Relic of Progenitus. That might be why he took first place.
Are you serious?
No one could cast their Gurmag Anglers.
And
so that's actually
the other Boros Rally decks, right?
And all the other Boros Rally decks. That's actually probably a problem if people are playing Graveyard Hate main deck and it's good. And I look at it and go, that was a really smart move.
Yeah,
for Journey to Nowhere.
It even hits our third place spot of Morosatron. I can totally respect that right now.
4 Journey to Nowhere, and then the lands, 21, 4 Boros Garrison, 1 Evolving Wilds, 6 Mountains, 6 Plains, 4 Windscarred Crags. The sideboard, 1 Prismatic Strands, 3 Electrickery, 3 Lumathread Field. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, that's the one that gives +0/+1 to all your creatures and also can be morphed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the most important part, is that it morphs. So you beat their face in with a 2/2, and then when they go to Electrickery your board, you morph and get them. And get them. I imagine that's the common line of play.
I imagine the common line of play is you just hold up 2 mana for a really long time and they never cast Electrickery. Or they force you into doing it by casting a kill spell on it and you just fizzle it by getting an enchantment.
No, you get them every time.
Oh, I got them.
They would get me every time because I didn't know this card existed until literally just seconds ago. 2 copies of Dust to Dust, which is...
Exile 2 artifacts, right?
Yeah, what's its mana cost for bonus points?
Colorless, white.
Wow, you're a machine. 2 Flaring Pain. Do you know what this one is? I bet I stumped you with that one.
Players can't draw Uno cards.
Wrong. What a noob. And then 4 copies of Pyroblast round out the sideboard. So that was the first place deck. And the second place deck is a lot different than this other deck. The creature suite is exactly the same, but it has 2 copies of Sacred Cat. This list is playing -1 Firebolt and +1 Cathartic Reunion as just a powerful way to run through everything.
I mean, just saying that sounds ballsy. Like, with all these counter spells running around, playing a Cathartic Reunion? I guess not in this deck. It's not that big of a risk.
It's not as big of a risk in here because you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 14 spells that you can cast from your graveyard.
Yeah.
That you can discard to it and feel less bad about. But they're also playing 4 copies of Prismatic Strands and 2 copies of Rally the Peasants. They're playing 4 Journey to Nowheres and then 1 Seal of Fire and 0 Relics of Progenitus. In the sideboard, a Aura Fracture, which is 2 and a white, sacrifice a land, destroy an enchantment. They've got 2 Electrickeries, 1 Lumathread Field, 2 Relic of Progenitus, 1 Circle of Protection Black, 2 Gorilla Shaman, 4 Pyroblast, and 2 Standard Bearer.
Aura Fracture? Oh, okay. So it's an enchantment that you can repeatedly sacrifice a land to destroy an enchantment. I wasn't sure on that one. I was like, what? I've seen this card a bunch. I just didn't recognize it, and I couldn't have told you what it does.
Dang it!
So
I should have tried to stump.
You should have tried to stump me on that one.
All right, so that's kind of a general look at how these rally decks are configured. Like, I do see a lot of tools available to these decks that do give them kind of a gain against the blue-black Delver decks. So I think that, I don't know, I think that if you're not playing a blue-black Delver deck, I'm really big on playing one of these Boros decks.
To be fair, other than... Oh, yeah, I agree with you. That's a really good place to be in this format, is this Boros Rally deck. I think last month I was like, I'm not sure if this is a flash in the pan or not. And, like, yeah, totally wrong. This is definitely not a flash in the pan. Like, this is just getting better, it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, looking at the metagame, this actually deals with the top 5, maybe more decks really well. Yeah, this is really well placed.
Yeah, I agree. And this is why I think, I don't know, I guess like I shouldn't speak too much to the matchup before I've actually played it, because I've never played the blue, black, white, red matchup yet. Like, I just haven't played it. I just look at the way their cards line up, and I'm going to ignore the 3 relic in the main deck, because I'm just going to assume that most people aren't doing that. And if it becomes commonplace to just be putting relics in your white-red aggro aggressive decks, then we're definitely having a big problem with our format.
I mean, like, isn't it kind of funny that they are a deck that wants to play cards out of their graveyard, and they're running Relic of Progenitus, which sometimes you're going to pop.
And you're going to lose you're going to lose something.
Prismatic Strands or something. I mean, I guess it's not the end of the world.
You'll probably like be losing Firebolt, Faithless Looting, Prismatic Strands. I imagine... I guess I could see you losing Rally the Peasants from time to time. You're probably never going to lose a Battle Screech, because you can always pretty much flash that back. Like, the turn you play it, you're typically able to flash it back. But anyway,
I think that matchup's got a lot of play of, like, blue black can definitely get out ahead. They can deny you white creatures so that you can't flash back your Battle Screeches, and then you assemble blockers and they make it really tough. Kill them, 2-for-1 you. Things like that, I think, all the time. So it has the tools, but I don't think it's just like one way or another now, at least.
And I'm not even sure which one is better. My gut tells me that this matchup is tough for blue-black Delver, but at the same time, I've played a lot of what I feel like should be tough matchups where I just have a Gurmag Angler on turn 3 and they died.
Yeah, and you just cast a few counter spells and stuff.
Yeah, and so while this deck does, I think this deck is definitely the most well positioned to fight Gurmag Angler decks. I'm also just not super confident that they're favored against the deck either.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was coming to. Yeah.
I think they're probably close though. Like, I'm not surprised. I certainly wouldn't be surprised to just get blown out by this deck. But I also wouldn't be surprised if, competent Delver players could eke out wins against them. I do want to touch on, because you talked about this deck being a flash in the pan last month, potentially, and how you think it's not right now. But my opinion on it is, I think that this deck was not a flash in the pan last month.
Yeah.
And that was before the dominance of the blue-black decks that we had. Like, I think this deck is just naturally good. It does something solid. It has a lot of tools to fight a lot of other top decks in the format. And I think that right now it is benefiting a lot from the blue-black decks being so dominant. But I think even if that was balanced out more, this deck would still do very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm to the point where I'm like thinking about, is this the evolution of Boros Monarch? Like, Boros Monarch started out as Kuldotha Boros, and it evolved into the Boros Monarch deck that we all love and hate today. And now its position, maybe it's just because I'm seeing a Boros deck in the number 2 slot in our power rankings. And that's right where Boros Monarch has been for the past year. And now Boros Monarch is going down and Rally's going up. It just feels like it's more mana efficient and has more advantage in a more logical way than bounce, play, bounce, play, bounce, play type of stuff.
Yeah. I think that like the one thing that the Boros Monarch deck has going for it is Galvanic Blast. Being able to play Galvanic Blast, I think, is a really good plus in Monarch's favor. That card is obviously less good now. But I think that like Rally kind of makes up for it in it just doesn't really need all that extra removal.
Yeah,
and so it can get away with playing Firebolt and stuff like that. Things that are more like disposable because it does have such a good just like game plan. It's a very, I don't want to say linear. That's not the word I'm looking for. It's
streamlined.
Yeah, it's just got a very streamlined, solid plan, and it just kind of uses its disruption spells to kind of help further that plan, And so I don't think they rely on the Galvanic Blast quite as hard. Plus, I don't think you're ever in a point where you need to burn them out because you have Rally the Peasants, and your Rally turns are usually what killed them.
So what I'm thinking about right now is that, those slow starts that Boros Monarch had that were kind of famous of like, play Tapland turn 1, turn 2, you play a cantrip artifact. I think that's more okay when Skred is your number 1 deck and your deck to beat kind of deal, and everything else is reasonably slow. But then when you have something like Blue Black Delver and you can have a turn 3 angler into counter spells and stuff like that, I don't think you have time as much anymore, and you still want to be like Boros Rally is still really good against Skred Delver, and all of the life gain just makes it beat a lot of the other aggro decks in the format. So there's I don't know. There's a lot to unpack with these power rankings, with these 2 fairly new decks dominating our list.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. We'll talk about third place, and I guess we'll just say so. Third place on 34 points, we have Marasa Tron, and then fourth place at 22 points was Boros Monarch. So that's where Sean was kind of saying we've seen it go down. It's in fourth place currently, but I think we'll just kind of talk a bit about Marasa Tron because we've already, I think, touched on Boros Monarch quite a bit. Yeah. So Marasa Tron is, again, I just think a solid. It just does something big and powerful, and for the most part can ignore what your opponents are doing and just try to do its big, powerful thing.
It's feeling like a safety net where it just has a basket holding, like it's just holding the basket, waiting to see if it can catch all those slow starts. Like it'll win all of those games, and then it will try its best to make those things happen. Like it's just our slow deck. Like it's the biggest and slowest thing.
And I think that Marasa Tron's always going to hover in the top 3 decks. It definitely needs to always be on your radar when you're thinking about a deck for a league or a challenge. You always need to know that Tron will be there in some number, and you need to have a good plan against it.
Which is tough.
It is tough because these decks attack from so many angles. They can, if you're trying to burn them out, they can just loop Pulse of Marasa. If you're a bit of a more controlling strategy, they're going to go over the top of you with their more powerful spells and their card advantage engines with like Ghostly Flicker and Mole Drifters and Mnemonic Walls. And they have access to Electrickery. They have access to all sorts of answers. So,
and then that dang Capsize, right?
That dang Capsize. Okay, so then fourth place, like we said, Boros Monarch. And in fifth place on 21 points, How the Mighty Have Fallen.
Skred Delver. How's the weather like down there, buddy?
I don't think there's much to comment on here, except that the Blue-Black Delver Skred Delver matchup just doesn't feel fair if you're the Skred Delver player.
Yeah, that when a 5/5 comes out, it feels over.
There's so many other things that this deck has over Skred Delver. Like, there's the extra copy of Gush. They just play so much more mana efficiently than you do. Their deck doesn't require quite as much setup time.
Scred Delver seems more weak to kill spells in general.
Yes. Yeah. The Ninja the Deep Hours is really not very good in the matchup.
Yeah, I mean that was like an all-star, and now it's just ew. Like that's not where I want to be.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really want to be on Scred Delver right now. There hasn't really been much innovation with the deck either. It's largely just remained the same, and I don't really know that there's actually much innovation to make within the deck to try to fight against the Gurmag Angler decks.
I feel like you'd be having to try to jam in those dazes and foils, and
that would be, and that's at that point that's really hard to fit with the fairies package. Like at that point, I think you've got to ditch the fairy package
and literal Scred, like.
And Scred, yeah, you Scred's just unplayable at that point, and then
you can't function on 2 land.
And then I don't know, that feels really bad though if like your only answer to Gurmag Angler is Daze and Foil.
It really is, and that's why Scred is suffering.
Yeah,
there's not.
I think so too.
Quick solution that I can see.
Yeah. So next on 19 points, we've got Stompy. I think at this point, it's just kind of becoming industry standard that we're back to old Stompy. You know, no copies of Elephant Guide. You know, they're on the Wild Mongrels plan again.
Yeah, our clock has been sped up sufficiently that, yeah, you just gotta go the quick route. I mean, Stompy does have some cool tools to deal with some stuff, like Vines of Vastwood always lines up well with a format since you can make a 6/6 fairly easily.
Yeah. So then 10 points in 7th place, we've got a 3-way tie. We've got Red Deck Wins, Mono Blue Delver, and Tireless Tribe. I think Red Deck Wins, in my mind, is comparable to Stompy in where it fits in the metagame. It's trying to be a very explosive, aggressive, go wide deck to try to, combat. I think that's a good way to combat a single giant creature, is to try to go wide around that creature.
It is, but not as effective as Green Stompy.
Yeah, I agree that it's not as effective as Green Stompy, which is probably why it has 9 less points.
Yeah. I mean, like the life gain in those other decks really, really hurt Red Deck Wins more than Stompy, where I feel like it's more repeatable. I don't know why. Or maybe it's just because Red Deck Wins have so many caveats on their creatures of like, well, now you can't attack. Now you have to do this. Okay, you got burn spells, but those lasted a turn and went straight to the face, whereas Stompy has the option of...
I think that Rancor is a big deal too.
Oh,
having a repeatable source of damage.
I wasn't even thinking about that.
It's something the red decks lack.
Yeah.
And the Rancor can get your guys big enough to tussle with, cards like Gurmag Angler. So...
That is true. Rancor's a little bit... I don't know. I was going to say that it's a liability against a deck with so many kill spells, but you do have tools to protect your guy.
Right. And, I mean, the Blue-Black Delver decks don't have that many removal spells. They've got 6. Maybe,
is that it?
Maybe 7 sometimes, but it's usually 2 to 3 Snuff Outs, which is the card you're most afraid of, 1 Ghastly Demise, and then 2 to 3 copies of Echoing Decay.
So no Disfigure.
Which figure?
Disfigure.
Generally, no.
And Diabolic Edicts?
Nope.
Wow, okay.
Big old goose egg.
I thought that they were a lot more kill heavy than that.
No. How do you think they're making room for 3 Gush, 3 days, 3 or 4 days, 3 foils, 4 brainstorms?
I don't know. I just didn't think about it.
Yeah, you've got to cut some. I mean, before the foil days, they were playing more. Like the first iterations of the deck had Disfigures in it. Had I've seen copies with Diabolic Edicts. I think that's changed. So like the Echoing Decays replaced the Edicts.
I mean, that does make sense in the meta right now. I think with people are going to go white against you.
I agree. I think the one that I don't agree, I really like Ghastly Demise, but the decks obviously are cutting down on Thought Scours, and so Ghastly Demise becomes a lot worse when you don't have Thought Scour. But I've done stuff by I've just killed Ulamog's Crushers before. Like my opponent's just like, Ulamog's Crusher, and I'm just like, all right, end step, I'll Ghastly Demise it, I'll untap and go about my day. But I can see why they're cutting down on them, because the card is much worse when you don't have Thought Scour to continually fuel your graveyard after you've anglered, and so the card does get a lot worse.
Yeah, and then it does stone nothing, whereas something like a -/ effect is still going to function.
Yeah, an Echoing Decay will always at least do something, but I really like
Echoing Decay is pretty high.
There's a floor and there's a ceiling, and there's some sort of space between that floor and that ceiling of varying height,
and that's called a room.
Yeah, and so I gotta stop moving back because then I get all orange. It must just be my lighting. That's so funny.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Anyway, with Tireless Tribe, one thing I want to touch on, I'm going to try to find the deck list because I'm fairly certain that it is the same player who did this.
LSV? Is it just LSV?
No, it's
his alt.
Oh my gosh! Shut up.
Is it his sister?
Just shut up and let me find it.
Does he have a nephew?
All right, here we go. This is the place. Yeah. Entropy 263. That name sounds familiar, right? You know who that is?
That's Birdman. Yeah. We actually had a conversation with him in Vegas, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember this guy.
The skinny guy, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure, really tall dude. He was He
was super cool.
Yeah,
we had a conversation about people playing Gush on the end step incorrectly at that tournament over and over and over again.
That was the biggest takeaway from GP Vegas, because it was one of the first, not the first, but it was still right at the beginning of Pauper's a GP thing. It's happening at GPs. People are playing Pauper. That was commonplace, that you would just sit down for your round, or you would just hear end step Gush.
Yeah. And then the I'd just be like, yeah, that's a good Gush.
Anyway, so Entropy 263, 25th place with Tireless Tribe, and I'm pretty sure it was also him from the challenge on the 16th that had a top 32 finish with this same deck. But he is actually playing 14 creatures in the main deck of his Tireless Tribe deck.
I'm going to interrupt real quick just so I can say he does have a Twitch channel, by the way. I think it's Birdman263.
Oh, okay. So you weren't just calling him Birdman because he was tall and skinny. I was kind of oh.
I don't make... Okay, there are people.
Shade.
There are people that do Magic content I don't like, but I will never say so publicly. Also, I sincerely think he's cool.
He is a really cool guy.
Anyway, he has a lot of creatures.
I think you've even shouted him out before, but check out his Twitch. Check out his Twitch. So anyway, he was playing 4 Augur Bolas, 4 Seeker of the Way, 4 Tireless Tribe, and this is the one that excites me.
Oh my gosh, Seeker of the Way in that. I've never thought about that. Well, okay, go ahead.
It gets better.
Okay.
2 copies of Tethmos High Priest.
What is he targeting it with?
3 copies of Mutagenic Growth, 3 copies of Shadow Rift, and you can always inside out it and attack him with a 3/2.
This makes me uncomfortable.
It's definitely bizarre, but he put up results 2 weeks in a row with it. So it's kind of an interesting deck list.
I think that's the first time I've heard innovation on Tribe that I can get behind.
Yeah.
I can't get behind all of it. The Tethmos High Priest, I would need to see some gameplay, but it's very possible that could just be amazing, and I just don't see it yet.
They've cut out a lot. He's cut out a lot of the weird stuff. So there's no Dizzy Spell. There's
Okay.
no Giga Drowse, and there are no copies of Circular Logic. His only interaction on the stack are 3 copies of Dispel.
Oh, just saying, why the heck would you play what's it called? Giga Drowse when we now have free counter spells running around all the time. So that makes sense.
Yeah. I think this deck's interesting, and it's got me excited to go dig through my box of Pauper playables and grab my Tireless Tribes and my Inside Outs again, because those have been in my box for a little while now after my last aggravating attempt to try to play this deck at the Oasis Tuesday night tournament.
Man, those Seeker of the Ways are going to be massive.
Yeah.
The biggest problem I can see with it is you're already kind of starved for white sources. How does he deal with that?
Yeah, and his mana base isn't different. It's the same mana base: 3 Ash Barrens, 4 Evolving Wilds, 8 Islands, 2 Plains. So, I mean, like, you really only still need 1 white mana.
Yeah.
But you're still just at the point where you're casting 1 white spell a turn, but you only have 10.
Yeah.
A 3-drop, a 2-drop, and a 1-drop.
That seems reasonable, I suppose.
I think it is.
You could double up, yeah.
I think that, like, I wouldn't fault someone for trying to play a 3rd Plains, but I also think that you can do fine with 2.
Yeah, I like that. That's a sweet list.
Yeah, anyway, I like it a lot.
Let's get the show on the road.
Let's do it.
We already talked about red deck wins. Mono blue Delver.
Mono blue Delver. I would like to address one thing with them. Let me find it in my notes.
They're on foils, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how many. 4 of the 6 decks that finished in the top 32 were playing 2 to 3 copies of foil in their main deck.
Yeah, when I've played against mono blue with foil in it, it feels like you can more consistently get, like, you're the deck that's going to be the most consistent in casting Gush, the most consistent in casting foil, and you are protecting your fairy package pretty well. Like, your fairy miscreants are going to live longer and draw you cards more often. So it felt better than I gave it credit for when we were trying to assess foil originally.
Yeah, and another thing that I don't know if we touched on, but that I've thought about, is that we've always harped on Mono Blue Delver's lack of good removal. And so just having extra free counter spells, that is removal for them.
The deck had slots. Like, there were 2 to 3, like, when you see 2 to 3 slots that are consistently being swapped in and out for other cards, that means those are flex slots and room for improvement is there. And when you give them a powerful enough card of, like, you're already playing Daze, you're already playing Gush, do you want this foil? I can totally see this deck doing well. And it is a deck that can play bounce spells, which, from my experience, have been terrible. But against a Gurmag Angler, maybe not so much. Like, they were terrible because Skred Delver was good, and all of its creatures had ETB effects, and Blue Black Delver has 0.
I do see a lot of issues, though, with, like, just going up the list from here. So red deck wins. I would never want to bounce spell. Well, actually, maybe.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, Stompy, they're fine if, like, you hold them up for their Rancors.
Or, their pump spells.
Yeah, so, I mean, those are okay. Skred Delver, you don't really want them against. Boros Monarch, you definitely don't want them against. Marasa Tron, I mean, you do what you got to do to live, I guess. Boros Rally.
That's bad.
Yeah. Boros Rally, they're definitely bad against. And then even against Blue-Black Delver, they're not phenomenal.
Yeah, the bounce spells are bad.
They can fill their graveyards up still very quickly. So the best thing you can do with them, is bouncing Gurmag Angler, delaying that for a turn, maybe setting up a counterspell, and resetting a Delver of Secrets.
Yeah, so if I were to try to be innovating on Blue Delver right now, it would be take out flex slots, try to build I counterspell everything you do deck, And
Yeah.
if I get behind, well, I just won't get behind, type of thing.
What about Cursive Chains?
Oh yeah, we were.
Is
you were
that
talking about
horrible because
something?
it doesn't flip
No,
Delver of
it
Secrets?
is not horrible.
Yeah.
They consistently play that in their sideboard anyway, I think.
Right.
And
so what would be wrong with putting 2 to 3 copies in your main deck?
really nothing that I can tell.
I mean, I
that's
guess
fair.
like I guess like your opponent could 2-for-1 themselves in the response to the curse by killing their creature, and then your Cursive Chains. You know, I guess that could happen.
What? I mean, the vulnerabilities with that playing it in the.
I'm trying to convey to our listeners that there's nothing wrong with it. Like accentuate the point that it's actually probably pretty good in the main decks.
Small things. One, you're not going to get that spell off of an Augur of Bolas.
Okay.
2, you play it in the main deck. They feel fine bringing in sideboard hate against it if it's actually a good spell against them.
But what sideboard hate is there for this card in decks where it would be good? Like it's really good against Blue-Black Delver. They don't have enchantment hate.
I guess I'm thinking about Stompy, and that's like it. Any white deck, any white deck is going to be able to kind of deal with it. But
I think that you're already such a dog to these white decks anyway that
I mean that seems entirely respectable to play that. Okay, so what I was going to say earlier is, and we've almost gotten away from it twice, is earlier we were talking about how Journey to Nowhere is really the only good white removal spell. Curse of Chains isn't that bad.
Curse of Chains is technically white.
So yeah, Curse of Chains I feel like is
it's
really
pseudo
gaining goodness.
It's like basically comparable to Journey to Nowhere in a lot of cases. You know, like their creature's not tapped away the turn you cast it. Like, you know, so it's not like I cast my removal spell, clear the way for attackers, because you do have to wait a turn for that creature to get tapped down. You know, but after that creature's just never a problem again unless they remove Curse of Chains. But that's the same issue with Journey to Nowhere.
I'm not sure how many decks are playing protection spells, but that is one risk that I've found is like it's not that good against Heroic because then they just remove it with a protection spell like Pro Blue, attack you immediately type of deal.
Well, luckily Heroic's not a real deck, so
yeah.
That's my comment for the show to get on Spencer's nerves. Got it. Oh yeah.
Dab on him. I hate dabbing so much.
I love dabbing. I've gotten to the point where I do it unironically now. It's bad. It's a problem.
Okay, let's finish this out.
Yeah. All right. So
speed.
8 points. We've got
red, black, mid range,
and elves.
So
I'll go through the red back mid range deck just quickly. So
right,
we're not
quick.
Spending infinite time on it. 14 creatures, 4 Chittering Rats, 1 Crypt Rats, 2 Gurmag Angler, 3 Phyrexian Ragers, 4 Thorn of the Black Rose, and then spells, we've got 2 Blightnings, 4 Chainer's Edict, 3 Duress, 1 Faithless Looting, 4 Night's Whisper, 2 Raven's Crimes, 1 Read the Bone, 4 Lightning Bolt, 3 Terminate. And then the mana base, 4 Blood-Filled Caves, 2 Bajuka Bogs, 4 Mountains, 2 Radiant Fountains, 4 Rakdos Carnarium, 6 Swamps.
That's a respectable list.
I like it, and it's been showing up. There were 5 lists that posted top 32 results this month. I guess that we lied at the beginning when we said Journey to Nowhere was the most efficient answer to Gurmag Angler. Maybe we didn't lie.
No, it's...
Journey to Nowhere is slightly more efficient than Terminate because Terminate is black-red, and Journey is 1 and a white. So it's got easier mana, so it's more efficient. But Terminate is a better removal spell because it's unconditional, can't be regenerated, it's an instant, and you're never worried about them having removal for your removal spell and getting their Gurmag Angler back.
Well, that's moot because they're playing blue-black, but I see the point.
I guess you're right. Anyway,
Actually, they do play Echoing Truth enough, like it's non-zero.
It is non-zero. I will cede that in the argument. It is non-zero, but it's also like not more than 2.
Right, and they're like
2% of the
sideboard
time.
cards.
Yeah, like 2% of the time, maybe you'll see it in the sideboard.
And to be fair, I would rather be playing a white deck right now than this.
I agree.
But
I agree.
I'm not going to make Terminate the card of the week. Let's move on.
All right. Yeah, let's move on. There's not a whole lot about that, except that this is just like basically a brand new archetype, and there's a lot of it floating around for it being new. You know, it's not like some random person loves playing blue or black and red cards and top 8'd. Like there have been 5 finishes last month with the
this
deck,
is
so.
a new archetype.
It's there. It's there. I think it's kind of cool, and I want to keep an eye on it. It looks fun.
6 points. We have the bad Angler deck, Blue Black Alchemy. We have Affinity, and then we have I don't know, slightly less bad Angler deck in Blue Black Reanimator.
Yeah, I really like the Blue Black Reanimator deck. I liked it before foil was in the format. I like it more now that foil's in the format.
Yeah, this is a weird one that's gonna go.
So there were only 2 finishes from the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them were top 8 finishes. It had 1 top 8 finish and 1 top 4 finish. Other than that, it was nowhere.
I mean, that feels like the hype died down from last month when this deck was high. And that's really what happened to it.
This feels like the hype. Like this was we got foil.
Or,
Reanimator's a thing.
Or
nope,
maybe it was the guy who had relics in his main deck just killed all of the Blue Black Reanimator people.
Maybe. So next on 5 points, we've got Mono Black, and then Is It Blitz? And I don't really have a lot to say about those decks.
No.
Sean never talks about Is It Blitz. He tunes it out whenever we get to this point in the power rankings.
On 3 points, we have Jeskai midrange, heroic, blue-red midrange with no Delver and no Ninja.
Yeah, it was
just a fairies list then?
No fairies.
Oh, so just...
Yeah, so I guess... I mean, yeah, they had Spellstutter sprites. But they were like Augur Boluses, Mull Drifter. Just kind of a weird deck.
Yeah.
So that was that deck on 3 points. I do want to note, though, that even though our thing says 3 points, they didn't actually post any top 8 finishes because we did do the weird, divide it by 4/5 thing. So they were actually on 4 points because there were 2 decks that had top 32 finishes last month. Did not make a top 8. I want to note that. But it does have 3 points because we had to divide it because there was a 5th week this month.
I don't think anyone knows the point system as intimately as you do.
They probably don't, but someone might, because I do know earlier on the show I did at some point used to say what our point system was, and then I kind of just stopped. So I don't know, just in case. But that's probably true. Probably no one listening knows our point system, and it's just like wouldn't have known if I hadn't said anything. 2 points. Bogleys. Blue-red ninja.
Hexproof. Gosh.
Boglas. Boglay. Boglays. I'm going to say that from now on. Boglay. Boglay.
Blue-red ninja. White-black pestilence. Goblins.
Red goblins.
That's the first time that has ever popped up on for the entire year. That is the first time that has made a top 32. Maybe.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was a goblins deck in the format, but apparently there is.
So take red deck wins, make it worse. That's goblins.
Ah.
Then we got Rugtron and whatever.
Rallygond.
Slivers. Ew. A Mardu. No, Esper Mess. Just a random pile of cards, I guess.
I didn't know what else to say about it. It was just a random pile of Esper cards, and it looked like a mess. This deck, however, is kind of interesting, and I'm going to read this deck list here so that Sean can maybe tell me how it works, because I've stared at it for like 20 minutes and don't understand how this deck wins. And maybe there's just a listener who's smart enough to get it there for me. But I'm calling it Mardu Tethmos because I don't know what else to call it. Tethmos High Priest combo? I don't know. I'm assuming it's a combo deck. 1 Benevolent Bodyguard, 1 Fanatical Firebrand, 4 Mog War Marshal, 3 Skirk Prospector, 4 Stinkweed Imp, 4 Tethmos High Priest, 4 Faithless Lootings, 3 Night's Whisper, 4 Tormenting Voice, 3 Unearth, 2 Lava Dart, 3 Prismatic Strands, 4 Crown of Flames. I think I stumped him with Lava Dart.
No.
Oh.
It's just Crown of Flames.
So is it just like a value deck, or
so okay?
Is it going off?
It goes infinite. So you get 10th most High Priest on the field.
Right. And you have
enchant it with and you have Skirk Prospector on the field, so you can sack creatures to make plus or
red mana,
1 red
so
mana.
that you can enchant Tethmos and bounce Crown of Flames to your hand, and then re-put it on Tethmos to get a creature back.
Every time.
Oh, Fanatical Firebrand! You kill him with Fanatical Firebrand.
Yeah, you kill him with Fanatical Firebrand, but you generate infinite mana with Mog War Marshal being returned, netting a mana every time.
I get that.
And Stinkweed Imp is just there to help fill your graveyard. Yeah, you got your Unearth.
You got the Unearth. Like, I knew it was a combo deck of some kind. I was just missing the kill until just now, and then I read Fanatical Firebrand, and it all made sense to me. But I was like, okay, so you return Crown of Flames to your hand, and then you put it back on Tethmos, and then what do you do when you run out of creatures in your graveyard? I was so confused. Or like, you just make a ton of red mana? I didn't get it, but now I get it. Fanatical
Just
Firebrand.
saying, what a silly combo. This is not going to catch on. I don't think that this is one guy. Oh, this is Kung Fu Trees. Of course it was freaking Kung Fu Trees.
I love this a lot. This might be my next project. I actually think I own all of these cards. Except for Crown of Flames.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow.
And Lava Dart. I don't own Lava Dart, and I don't own Crown of Flames.
If I don't know, if people are going to be like me and just saying, I'm going to be probably go back to be playing Bomberman, and I'm just going to make it so instead of 3 Journey to Nowhere, I have 4, and then I might find another room for a second relic in the main, and just have some fun. And finally, our last deck is the Dreadmaw list.
I really only put that on there for Sean. The Dreadmaw deck.
Dude.
It was just like this bizarro ramp deck.
I mean, yeah.
That played Colossal Dreadmaw.
But like, if you're logicking through that deck, you've got 6/6s with Trample, which is respectable. Like, Colossal Dreadmaw is a meme, but it's also like not the worst placed card in our format, except for you don't want to tap out for it. But if you want to play a green deck, I can't think of many other cards that are that much better than Colossal Dreadmaw. And then again, then also you have things to protect it with your vines. You have that Spirit Tiger. I played against this Dreadmaw list, actually. Some guy memed me with it in the practice room. He actually, I think he beat me, and that Spirit Tiger was a pain in my butt.
Oh man, that's super funny. Yeah, I was going through my sorting cards the other day into like stuff that I can buy list to Card Kingdom for a nickel, and stuff that I can take to Oasis Games to get $4 per 1,000 on.
Mm-hmm.
And I had some Colossal Dreadmaws, and I was just like, put them back into my popper box.
Oh yes,
for the meme. I'm like, I'm literally never gonna put these cards in a sleeve.
Do you have a foil one? Because I might need one for my cube now.
Ooh, oh, you definitely need one for your cube. Oh man.
Okay, let's be done.
End times.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. Oops, I turned orange again. That was December Power Rankings. Brought to you in part by, not in part, fully by brought to you by the Common Knowledge Podcast, in part by Constructed Criticism and PureMTGO.com, as well as InkedGaming.com. Go to InkedGaming.com today and use coupon code CCMTG10 at checkout for 10% off all Inked Gaming supplies and accessories. How was that?
That was smooth.
For a oh man. All right.
Did you cover everything up to that point? Did you get the Patreon?
No, I didn't get the Patreon. Oh, brought to you in part by viewers like you.
Thank you.
Thank you for realsies. Go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/common knowledge, and give us your monies so that we can do cool stuff, because we want to do cool stuff like our 5-card blind tournament and all the other neat things that we want to roll out.
I mean, it's about, you know, if you want to donate because we want to do cool things with the podcast, if we can make more money, but like also just supporting us, really, like that means a lot. We really don't make any money on this podcast. Like, being honest, I don't get to add to my budget because of the couple bucks a month that we get. But you know, if it really goes to, it shows me that I'm appreciated a little bit. And like, I'll be honest, there have been days where I don't want to do anything with the podcast, and my week has been hectic, and it helps. It helps me want to keep doing this. And thank you guys that support us. Like, it means a ton to me.
Yeah. And I joke about it, but I feel the same as Sean. It's unbelievable to me that someone is willing to, you know, support what I do or appreciates what I do enough to show support for it. And it's very humbling, and we do appreciate it very, very much. So other ways that you can support us is by supporting the network that we are affiliated with. And the best way you can do that for us is to go to YouTube and smash that like button and favorite. I haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah. Subscribing really helps our network, and if you like our videos, it boosts our visibility so more people can find the podcast. Even if you don't watch it on YouTube, going through and liking a couple of our videos really helps us out.
Yeah, and
it's free.
Like or subscribing to the Constructed Criticism YouTube page, you're going to get access. You're going to see a ton of awesome stuff there. There's so many great stuff that Spencer's doing with the network. So go check it out. Give it a check out. You can, you know, hear awesome stuff from Mythic Championship competitor, Magic Pro League Seth Manfield, and John Stern. He's there too. No, I'm just kidding. I said it last week, or a few weeks ago, but it was like, the thing was that just like John Stern was kind of relatively unknown to me because he wasn't a super vocal member of the game. You know, I would see him post results, but he wasn't, you know, winning worlds. Like, you know, so Seth Manfield, all the big flashy finishes. But I finally, like, after I've listened to the podcast a few times and heard John Stern, I'm just like, this guy's out of control. Like, this guy's just good. This guy's really good. He's just, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, go listen to them. They're sweet. If you'd like to get a hold of us, you can do so via email. You can email us at commonknowledgemtg@gmail.com, where we do appreciate. I think this is one of the biggest things I appreciate most is getting emails from the listeners. You don't even have to send us an email like telling us that you like the show or anything like that, because I think just sending the email shows me that you listen to the show and you appreciate it. Like, but yeah, even when we just get silly, bizarro emails from listeners just telling us funny stories, I just love it. So send us an email.
Yeah, anything.
And lastly, but certainly leastly, where can they find us?
You can find me at Lobbert, Lobbert 8 on Twitter. And you can also find me on YouTube if you look for Lobbert. Where can they find you and the podcast, Brandon?
CK Podcast MTG is the place where you can find us on the Twitters. And we have a Facebook group. Just search for Common Knowledge MTG. Is it just Common Knowledge? One of the two. Just search it. Search for it. You need a little common knowledge in your life. It makes me crack up now every time I see Common Knowledge. like written, like someone just saying, "Oh, that's just common knowledge. Everyone knows that." I'm just like, it makes me laugh.
It's like, yes, keep saying it. Those clicks.
Say
those
it.
clicks.
We need to get this. Well, not even when they're like, not even talking about common knowledge. Just it'll be like on a random Facebook thread about politics or something, and someone will just be like, "This is just common knowledge. Everyone knows about this." You know, it has nothing to do with the podcast, but I see it and I'm just like, "What? Oh, that's an actual turn of phrase. It's not just my podcast." We need to get this trademarked.
Yeah, and charge people whenever they say common knowledge.
Yeah.
I don't think it works like that.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm assuming that there's music playing right now and that the listeners are ready to turn us off.
If they haven't already.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. They probably turned us off a long time ago. How long is this outro music anyway?
Usually not long enough to cover the entire outro.
But long enough that it can still be playing while we're talking right now?
Yeah, I think it just ended a minute ago.
All right, bye.
Bye.